Hi everyone, welcome to this section. Today we are going to work on Chapter 11, the cost of capital. The cost of capital is a fundamental concept in finance. It is critical metric being used in valuation, capital budgeting, and capital structure decision. After this chapter, we will understand the fundamental of cost of capital. We will know why a firm needs to know its cost of capitals when financing its operation or new investment project. We explore the component cost of capitals and its computation. We also learn about WACC, the weighted average cost of capitals. We present the overall cost of fund, discussing how a firm uses WACC in their financial decision making. We then find out what is the marginal cost of capitals and how it being used to make capital budgeting decisions. Finally, we discuss the relationship between the firm WACC and investor required rate of return. So let's get into it. First of all, what is the cost of capital? The cost of capital represents the firm's average cost of fund, which is the average return required by the firm investor. The cost of capital is basically how much it costs you to raise money. Well, money is not free. It comes with costs, and that is the rate of return that the lenders or shareholders requires as compensation for their contribution of capitals. From capital suppliers' perspective, it is the opportunity cost of money. In order to attract funds, firms must offer a relative competitive rate that equals average return required by the firm investor. Otherwise, investors would rather invest somewhere else. Remember that firms need funds to finance their operation or new investment projects. From firms' perspective, this rate is an important benchmark to know when making capital budgeting decisions. If the return on new project covers the cost of fund, that investment is worth to do. Otherwise, there is no point to carry out such unprofitable investment because it will decrease the firm value. That's why the return on these new projects is also called the firm's required rate of return, the minimum rate of return that the firm must earn from their investment. So we can see that a firm decides how to use a fundraise, but the investors are the one who determine the firm's cost of fund. To attract their fund, a firm must pay the return that satisfy their investors. The question is how investors come up with their required rate of return. Well, it's not a random number certainly, but depend on some factors. It could depend on financial market conditions, such as the level of interest rate, the state of economies. It also depends on investor risk appetite. Some groups of investors prefer high risk, high return. The other group may want safety at first. Firm's risk is also important determinant of firm cost of fund. Intuitively, a higher rate being required for firm who is young, small, and risky. Vice versa. The next question is what source of capital do firms use and how to measure these capital components. How can we finance the firms? Well, we can finance a firm using various sources of capital, including debt, preferred stock, retained earnings, and common equity. We're going to learn about the cost of each capital components and its computation in more detail later. We know the most firms raise proportion of funds from various capital sources at different costs. For example, suppose a firm capital structure is one-third debt at 10%, the other one-third preferred stock at 12%, and the rest from issuing new common stock. So what do we know the cost of capital? In this case, we need to calculate the weighted average cost of capital, WACC. The weights are the proportions of each source of capitals. When we average out these component costs, we get the average cost of each dollar a firm used to purchase assets, no matter its sources. Obviously, each firm has different combination of financing instruments to raise funds, depending on the nature of their business, industry they are in, investment opportunities, financial health. But rationally, every firm tries to find an optimal capital structure. That means minimize the cost of capitals. Assume that a firm would be able to find a target capital structure for itself. It has a motivation to keep the actual capital structure on target over time, even if it needs to raise new capitals, so that they can maximize its firm value. Now, we are going to learn in more details about each capital components. First, let's have a look at the cost of debt. The cost of debt is simply the interest rate the firm must pay on their new borrowing. A firm can borrow money from many sources, from Commerce Bank, or they can issue a bond to raise money from finance market. So one thing we should bear in mind that the coupon rate on the firm outstanding debt is not relevant here. So that so-called sunk cost would be used for reference only, but it is not the current cost the company pay today. So how do we know the current cost of debt? The answer is fairly simple. We can use yield to maturity approach to estimate the before tax required return on debt. Or we can use debt rating approach based on company debt rating. The most benefits of using debt instrument is that the interest on debt is a tax-deductible expense to a firm. So after tax cost of debt is the actual cost of the firm.